Okay, brethren, for a few weeks now I've been looking at the topic of the Antichrist, this very powerful, charismatic, but quite destructive individual who will appear on the scene, I guess, somewhere fairly soon ahead of us. This person probably already is 25 years old or 40 years old or 60 years old out there somewhere, and we're expecting his arrival at some point. Up to this point, we've looked at, well, where might he come from? Geographically, what would his origin be? And of course, one of the most popular views is that he will come from Rome, or what is meant typically by that is somewhere from the old Roman Empire. So it might be Italy, it might be Germany or France, even presumably the UK might fit in there, right? But as I've said before, and we spent some time looking at Daniel 2 and the statue that Nebuchadnezzar had in his dream, that the so-called Iron Kingdom, the Iron Legs, which people say is Rome, and the Amplified Bible even has the words Rome in the Bible, that it fails the Bible test. So although Rome is very popular and has been for at least 1800 years, particularly for Daniel 2 and the statue, it fails the test because the Iron Kingdom, the Iron Legs, it says, breaks in pieces and destroys and pulverizes all those kingdoms that came before it, which Rome never did, right? So Rome, as far as I'm concerned, fails the test. Now, which kingdom passed the test? Which kingdom came along and destroyed Babylon and pulverized it, and destroyed and pulverized Medo-Persia, and destroyed and pulverized the entire Greek Empire? The answer is the Islamic realm, starting around about 600 AD, and in fact still there today, still dominates the landscape of these countries even today. Now that's just a historical fact. So if you prefer the Roman interpretation, then fine. Yeah, can't shift you from that. I'm not even trying really. But last week and the week before, we looked at several other passages pointing out where the Antichrist, the king of the north, the man of sin, the little horn, might come from, right? And my conclusion, which I presented to you, at least provisionally, is that it looks like it's going to be an Islamic Antichrist from one of the countries in the Middle East. That's where end-time prophecy is basically, based, right? So we're looking for this impressive, charismatic, strong, dominant leader of 2 billion plus people, right, to come on the scene fairly soon. But it turns out he's not going to be on his own, right? So we're not just looking for one person. He will have a very powerful associate, a very powerful supporter, what I've referred to as his enforcer, right? Which is a being we'll look at shortly called the false prophet. So the Antichrist, this king of the north, this little horn, and a false prophet working in cahoots with him. So we're looking for two people in the end time, not just the one, right? But before we review the false prophet, look at what Scripture tells us about the false prophet, and it tells us quite a lot. I just want to spend a couple of moments or so just giving a brief description of what the Antichrist is like. We focused so far on where he might come from, Rome or Middle East, right? And you know where I think there. But what's his personality or character? Does the Scripture tell us anything? The answer is, seems to do, yeah. So let's open our Bibles at Daniel chapter 8 to start with and see what he's like. So Daniel 8, I'm going to read verses 23 to 25. Daniel is a manual for the end times. And here we're picking up the story in verse 23. It's talking about, the earlier verses tell us, the little horn, right? The little arrogant horn who exalts himself, okay, in the end time. But verse 23 gives us just a brief description. So verses 23 through 25, just hitting a comment or two. And in the latter time of their kingdom, when the transgressors have reached their fullness, a king shall arise. That's this little horn. This is the Antichrist, right? A king shall arise having fierce features, who understands sinister schemes. Tricky devil, this guy. His power shall be mighty, but not by his own power. Going to get a lot of support. He shall destroy fearfully. I've said before, destructive, perhaps tens of millions might fall during his reign, and shall prosper and thrive. He shall destroy the mighty and also the holy people. Through his cunning, he shall cause deceit to prosper under his rule. And I'm not surprised, because I think it's the devil that influences and motivates this individual. So cunning and being fierce and a destroyer, not surprised at all. Verse 25, through his cunning he shall cause deceit to prosper under his rule. He shall exalt himself in his heart. He shall destroy many in their prosperity. He shall even rise against the Prince of Princes, but he shall be broken without human means. It's God that eventually, or Jesus Christ, that takes him down ultimately, right? Now that's a reasonable but fairly brief description. It's in New King James Version I'm reading there. Thought I might just read it in the New Living Translation, which possibly is a little bit more sort of free-flowing, easy to read. So I'll just read the same verses, 8, 23, 25 in the New Living Translation, just to give it a bit more modern flavour. At the end of their rule, when their sin is at its height, a fierce king, a master of intrigue, will rise to power. He will become very strong, but not by his own power. He will cause a shocking amount of destruction and succeed in everything he does. Now, he's going to rule the roost for 42 months, give or take a bit. He will destroy powerful leaders and devastate the holy people. He will be a master of deception and will become arrogant. He will destroy many without warning. He will even take on the Prince of Princes in battle. That's Jesus Christ, I imagine. But he will be broken, though not by human power. So he's a master of deception, intrigue. He's sinister. He deceives, I think, quite a number of times. It looks like he's going to initially appear as a peacemaker, the solution to the world's problems. Got all these wars and rumors of wars. Here comes this individual. Got the answers, folk. Trust me. I've got wisdom. I can deal with this. I can make it all right. I can make the troubles go away. Trust me. It's that type of initiation. But of course, it turns out he's a rogue, right? A deceiver, and so on. Let's turn to Daniel 11. There's another brief description here. Daniel 11, we're going to read verses 21 to 24 and then 36 to 37. But Daniel 11, starting in 21 to 24. And he's known here as the King of the North, one of the many titles, Man of Sin, Little Horn, Antichrist, Son of Perdition, all that type of stuff. Verse 21, and in his place shall arise a vile person. This is a description, right? To whom they will not give the honour of royalty, but he shall come in peaceably. At least that's how it seems to start. Peacemaker, got the solution. And seize the kingdom by intrigue. With the force of a flood, they shall be swept away from before him and be broken, and also the prince of the covenant. And after the league is made with him, league in the sense of an agreement, perhaps a treaty with this individual, which he'll renege on. And after the league or treaty is made with him, he shall act deceitfully. For he shall come up and become strong with a small number of people. He shall enter peaceably, even into the richest places of the province, and he shall do what his fathers have not done, nor his forefathers. He shall disperse among them the plunder, spoil, and riches, and he shall devise his plans against the strongholds, but only for a time. So deception, vile, a king, fierce features, intrigue, sinister. You get the gist, right? Let's look at verses 36 to 37. Then the king of the north, as you can see if you go back a few verses, then the king shall do according to his own will. He shall exalt and magnify himself above every god. It reminds you of 2 Thessalonians 2, the man of sin sits in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God, exalts himself. It's repeated throughout many scriptures in Daniel and Revelation. This guy is, I think he's possessed by the devil. At the very least, he's influenced, motivated, right? But I think in reality, he will be possessed. You'll see a person who looks initially peaceable and friendly and competent, bringing peace to the world. But actually, of course, behind the facade, behind the mask, it's the devil. That's my opinion. Verse 36, the king shall do according to his own will. He shall exalt and magnify himself above every god, shall speak blasphemies against the God of gods, shall prosper till the wrath has been accomplished, for what has been determined shall be done. He shall regard neither the God of his fathers, nor the desire of women, nor regard any god, for he shall exalt himself above them all. Right? That's, I think, we see that in several places. Again, let me read just the New Living Translation version of that. The more modern English, slightly more free in terms of the style, might be a bit easier to follow. So that's 11 verses 21 to 24. The box this Bible came from says it's large print. Complete nonsense. Need a magnifying glass to read this.
Smaller.
Large print, that's false advertising.
It's not your Bible anyway.
Verse 21. The next to come to power will be a despicable man, right? Who is not in line for royal succession. He will slip in when least expected and take over the kingdom by flattery and intrigue. See, it's all deception, it's dishonest, using his skills, right? Not very righteous skills. Before him, great armies will be swept away, including a covenant prince. With deceitful promises, he'll make various alliances. I mean, you know, Daniel's 70th week, the final 7 years, starts off with a treaty, a covenant with many for 1 week, for 1 7-year period. In the middle of it, he's a deceiver. He reneges, turns around, betrays those in that agreement. Right? This looks the same guy, Antichrist, who becomes strong despite having only a handful of followers. Verse 24, without warning, he will enter the richest areas of the land. Then he will distribute among his followers the plunder and wealth of the rich, something his predecessors had never done. He will plot the overthrow of strongholds, but this will last for only a time. Yeah, I mean, he's going to plot, going to distribute money, resources, minerals. You've seen that yourself, probably in your parliament and so on, your Congress. People in charge look after their friends, right? Verses 36 to 37, New Living Translation. The king will do as he pleases, exalting himself and claiming to be greater than every god, even blaspheming the God of gods. He will succeed, but only until the time of wrath is completed. For what has been determined will surely take place. He will succeed for a while. Looks like 42 months, up to 7 years, right? He will have no respect for the gods of his ancestors or for the God loved by women or for any other god, for he will boast that he is greater than them all. Proud, boastful, arrogant, I think consumed by the devil, if not possessed by the devil, and he's going to be a destroyer, all right? But not on his own. So let's turn to Revelation 13 and pick up the New Testament version of the story of the Antichrist, the beast. And of course, beast can refer to the beast empire or the beast empire leader, the individual known as the beast. And often it's interchangeable. Chapter 13, book of Revelation, verses 1 through 8, which we covered last week, so we'll just scoot through this. Then I stood on the sand of the sea, and I saw a beast rising up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, which I think are 10 Islamic nations in a coalition, and on his horns 10 crowns. on his heads a blasphemous name. There's a lot of blasphemy going on here, right? Because it's the devil incarnate in an individual, virtually. Now the beast which I saw was like a leopard. His feet were like the feet of a bear. His mouth like the mouth of a lion, and a leopard, a bear, and a lion. We found in Daniel 7, the 4 beasts there, the 4th beast being a great and terrible beast, unlike any other animal, it would seem. This appears to be a composite. One beast here, but made up of all the bits of the Daniel 7 beasts. The dragon, that's the devil, gave him his power, his throne, and great authority. And I saw one of his heads as it had been mortally wounded, and his deadly wound was at this stage healed. We've speculated what that might be. And all the world marveled and followed the beast. So they worshipped the dragon, incredibly, who gave authority to the beast, and they worshipped the beast, saying, "Who is like the beast? Who is able to make war with him?" So the world, or at least a large chunk of the world, honors and worships the beast. And one comment is, well, who can make war with this beast and his empire, his kingdoms, right? Which tells us, I think, that the beast is very strong militarily. So even big armies, big navies, big air forces, hundreds of thousands of soldiers, trained soldiers, it wouldn't be easy to go up against the beast, because it says, who can make war against this beast? Right, and as we said last week, if you remember, in chapter 12, we have the devil, the dragon, going after those who keep the commandments and have the testimony of Jesus Christ. But like I said last week, the devil can't really chase people just directly. He can't just send thoughts of destruction out to destroy people who are going about their business. So what the devil does is he has to set up a human organization, an empire, to go after the saints. And that's what's going to happen. This beast empire is the tool of the devil to destroy the saints, those who keep the commandments and have the testimony of Jesus Christ. This is the method he uses: an organization, a people, nations. Verse 5, and he, the beast, was given a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies, and he was given authority to continue for 42 months, 3.5 years. I imagine that's the second half of the 7-year period, coincides with the Great Tribulation and so on. Then he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name, his tabernacle, and those who dwell in heaven. I mean, blasphemy is all you get, which is obviously directed against God, God's heavenly temple, God's people. It's quite clearly demonic, devilish. Verse 7, it was granted to him, to make war with the saints, and double to overcome them. That's what the devil wants. That's why the devil set this system up, to get to the saints. And authority was given him over every tribe, tongue, and nation. Certainly sounds, worldwide. All who dwell on the earth will worship him, whose names have not been written in the book of life of the Lamb, slain from the foundation of the world. Now it says all those that dwell on the earth. Earth is fine, but equally it can be translated land, because the Greek word allows either translation. So it's possible it's talking about the land in which the beast has its greatest influence and power, which might be the Middle East, right? The Islamic countries in particular. So leave that open. The world as a whole, or the Middle East region. Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Iran, Persian Gulf area, Asia Minor, Israel. Time will tell. Let's move on then. Starting in verse 11 to 13. Because here comes the enforcer, the assistant to the beast, the Antichrist. Then I saw another beast, verse 11, coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, and spoke like a dragon, and he exercises all the authority of the first beast in his presence, and causes the earth and those who dwell in it to worship the first beast whose deadly wound was healed. He, this second beast, who looks like a lamb but speaks like a dragon, he performs great signs, so that he even makes fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men. I think we have a slide of this second beast. So pretty horrific looking. Looks like a lamb, which I guess suggests being harmless and innocent, but not in reality. It speaks like a dragon, which is, in other words, speaking like the devil. And out of the heart, the mouth speaks, right? So if this speaks like a dragon, speaks like the devil, then it's got the heart of the devil, right? So people will be confused, I guess, because this looks innocent, looks harmless, this individual. Speaks words of peace, sort of, right? And what he does is he encourages the worship of the first beast, the worship of the Antichrist, right? Now, typically, he's referred to as the false prophet, but you won't find that term here in Revelation 13. So you might say, well, who says it's a false prophet? Can't believe you, Jamie, just saying that's a false prophet. The words false prophet aren't even there. You having me on? Well, of course not. But what you typically find is this individual, the false prophet, I'll show you in a moment or two, is always found working in association with the beast, or the beast's leader, the individual, the Antichrist, and also working at the same time, typically, with the devil. So you tend to find the unholy trinity, right? The Antichrist, the devil, the false prophet generally are found working together as a team, very wicked team. You can see that if you look at Revelation 16. Revelation 16. Go to read verses 12 to 14 and then jump down to verse 16, just to sort of identify the individual is most often called the false prophet. You call him the second beast, like a lamb with two horns and speaks like a dragon. It's fine, but typically I think most Bible scholars, prophecy people refer to him as the false prophet because it's quite biblical. We'll see here. Verse 12. Then this is an event right at the very end of most things. We get into the battle of Armageddon, which is where all the armies of the world are destroyed by the Lord Jesus. So it's right at the very end of this age, pretty much. Then the sixth angel poured out his bowl on the great river Euphrates, and its water was dried up, so that the way of the kings from the east might be prepared. And I saw three unclean spirits, like frogs, coming out of the mouth of the dragon, out of the mouth of the beast, out of the mouth of the false prophet. So, dragon, the devil, beast, Antichrist, false prophet, the three of them. And I think the language here suggests individuals, not empires, right? Verse 14, for they are spirits of demons, performing signs, which go out to the kings of the earth and of the whole world, to gather them to the battle of that great day of God Almighty, when Jesus is back at Armageddon to meet with and destroy the armies of the world. Verse 16, and they, these demonic spirits, gathered them together to the place called in Hebrew Armageddon, which in Hebrew means Mount of Assembly, another name for Jerusalem, right? So beast, false prophet, dragon, side by side as a team. Have a look at Revelation 19, and we'll read verses 19 to 20. Revelation 19, verses 19 to 20. And I saw the beast, the Antichrist, the kings of the earth and their armies, gathered together to make war against him who sat on the horse and against his army. This is the battle at Armageddon. This chapter is what they call an inset chapter. It's just giving more information about what we just read in chapter 16. Then the beast was captured, and with him the false prophet, who worked signs in his presence, by which he deceived those who received the mark of the beast, and those who worshipped his image. These two, and it looks like individuals, Antichrist, false prophet as men, these two were cast alive into the lake of fire, burning with brimstone. I don't think they'll last too long in that. And the rest were killed with the sword which proceeded from the mouth of him who sat on the horse, and all the birds were filled with their flesh. I guess it's hundreds of thousands or millions of dead bodies being eaten up by the carrion, the vultures and eagles and sundry other birds and so on, right? So you've got these three individuals, the dragon, the devil, the beast, the Antichrist, the false prophet, the second beast of Revelation 13, working together side by side. Now, it seems to me that when they appear on the scene, the first beast, second beast, they're going to be sort of surrounded by a great deal of supernatural power because the devil's with them. So I don't know what that will look like in practice, but expect supernatural signs and wonders to surround these two guys. Now, if the first beast, Revelation 13, 1-8, right, is Islamic, which I suggested last week, an Islamic realm with 10 horns or 10 Islamic nations, if the first beast is Islamic, then I think it's fair to suggest that the second beast, the false prophet, is also Islamic. Right? I don't think the Islamic Antichrist is going to be supported by a Hindu false prophet or a Buddhist or the Pope. Right? We won't put it past the Pope, but in reality, I think, not this Pope anyway, in reality, I think we're talking about an Islamic false prophet, right? Now, curiously, Islam, the religion of Islam, which has about 1.8 billion adherents worldwide, about 1 person in 4 on the earth, 25% of the world's population are Muslims, but Islam itself has its end-time prophecies. They have expectations of what's going to happen in the end times, right? And strangely enough, curiously enough, Islam expects to see 2 powerful servants of Allah arriving in the end times. How curious. So do Bible-believing Christians. Oh, we have a shared view, do we? Other than, of course, it's completely reversed. The 2 that are expected to arrive by Muslims, and of course Muslims are going to vary a bit. You're going to get like Christians. You can get Christians, can't you? Just in name only, just tick a box, Christian, meaning I'm not Buddhist, not Hindu, not Muslim, I'm Christian. You get Christians who are never pray, never read the Bibles, never go to church, but I'm Christian, so culturally, right? Went to church when I was 5 or 10, not since. You get Muslims who are devout, practicing, active, and you get Muslims who probably are fairly apathetic and don't care too much. It's a cultural thing, so you can't call every Muslim identical, right? So we have to allow a little bit for that. But the 2 end-time servants of Allah that most Muslims expect to arrive, one's called the Mahdi, or the Mahdi, right? He's the head one, going to turn up in the end times, not here yet, apparently, and he's going to unite all Muslims around the world, right, to come together to conquer the world for Islam, to promote Islam worldwide, and Sharia law, and so on, right? He's going to control armies and governments, weaponry. He's the Mahdi, right? The big, powerful, end-time civil military leader. He's going to be supported and helped, strange enough, by an enforcer called Isa al-Masih. Isa, I-S-A, al-A-L, hyphen, Masih, M-A-S-I-H. Isa is the Arabic for Jesus. Al is the, and Masih, M-A-S-I-H, is Messiah. So Muslims expect Jesus, the Messiah, to come back in the end times and support the Mahdi in conquering the world for Islam. So the Prophet Jesus will return. That's what Muslims teach, right? The Prophet Jesus, Isa, will descend from heaven, work with the Mahdi, basically to kill Christians and Jews. Oops, right? Because never get confused by this. You might come across, if you ever talk to a Muslim or hear them being interviewed on the telly, perhaps where you are, and the Muslim will say, oh yeah, we believe in Jesus the prophet, right? Well, yes and no. They use the name Jesus the prophet, Isa al-Masih, Jesus the Messiah, but their Jesus is not the biblical Jesus. Their Jesus, for example, is not the Son of God, because Allah cannot have sons and daughters. So therefore, their Jesus is not God in the flesh, right? And their Jesus, Isa, didn't die, right? It was faked. So the Jesus that they talk about isn't the Son of God, never shed his blood and died. But he exists, as far as they're concerned, now in heaven, and he will return fairly soon, right, to help the Mahdi. So we've got some slides, I think, to show you. Probably got 4 or 5 slides. So that's all about the Mahdi. I think I can read that. So if you read that there, so quotation, the Mahdi will be victorious and eradicate those pigs and dogs. That would be like Christians and Jews. And the idols of this time, so that there will once more be a caliphate, that's Islamic rule, based on prophethood, as the Hadith states, Islamic writings. Jerusalem, notice, will be the location of the rightly guided caliphate and the center of Islamic rule. So Muslims expect to take over Jerusalem. The Antichrist, of course, takes over Jerusalem. The abomination of desolation is set up in Jerusalem, which will be headed by Imam al-Mahdi, the Mahdi, that will abolish the leadership of the Jews and put an end to the domination of the Satans who spit evil into people and cause corruption in the earth, making them slaves of false idols and ruling the world by laws other than the Sharia, the law of the worlds. So this tells us that the Mahdi is going to eradicate Jews and Christians and ensure the law of Islam is enforced worldwide. Got another one, I think. The Mahdi will establish right and justice in the world and eliminate evil and corruption. He will fight against the enemies of the Muslims who would be victorious. The Prophet Muhammad said, the Mahdi will fill the earth with equity and justice, as it was filled with oppression and tyranny, and he will rule for 7 years. You can see why Muslims would look forward to this character, right? They can't wait. They can look around the world and see the wars, poverty, disease, sickness, oppression. People don't believe Islam and so on. And here, the Mahdi, when he returns or arrives and gets revealed, will bring equity and justice and peace, right? Wow, can't wait for the Mahdi to arrive. That's what many Muslims are waiting for. It's the solution, the answer. Got another one, I think. I find the Mahdi recorded in the books of the prophets, says Muhammad. For instance, the book of Revelation says, and I saw and beheld a white horse. He that sat on him went forth conquering and to conquer. Well, that's the first of the 6 seals, first of the 7 seals, I guess. The white horse. The Muslims believe that's their Mahdi. I believe that's the wicked end time leader, the destroyer who goes forth conquering and to conquer. See, I think I'll get one on Jesus, is it next? Yeah, this one talks about Jesus, Isa, to Muslims. Jesus will descend from heaven, because they believe he's there at the moment, all right? Jesus will descend from heaven and espouse the cause of the Mahdi. The Christians and the Jews will see him and recognize his true status. The Christians will abandon their faith in his Godhead. So what they mean by that is that many Christians believe Jesus is the Son of God, came to the earth, made flesh, and died, and so on. When this happens, the Muslims believe Christians will forfeit that belief. You and I would say they're going to apostatize. They're going to accept that Jesus is not the Son of God, right? Jesus, the Son of Mary, I think it says in the bottom paragraph, Jesus, the Son of Mary, which they believe, will soon descend among the Muslims as a just judge. Jesus will, therefore, judge according to the law of Islam. All people will be required to embrace Islam, and there will be no other alternative. So this Jesus, when he comes, will not be promoting the Torah, the laws of God. He'll be promoting Sharia law, right? And there'll be no alternative other than, I think, death. That's how I understand it. So You've got the Muslims, 1.8 billion, and a huge number of them are waiting for the Mahdi to bring peace, prosperity to the world, and Jesus, Isa, to return to support him, to drive out the pigs, the apes, the monkeys, as they call them, right? But you get a choice. In their theology, you get a choice. You can convert to being a Muslim as well, accept Islam and Sharia law, or you take the other choice, right? Now, you might think, well, hang on a second, we can't put too much faith in Islamic prophecies, can you? Didn't come from God, did it? No, I don't think so, right? On the other hand, Islam uses the Bible. Muhammad plagiarized, right? Copied great chunks out of the Old Testament and the New Testament. And if you accept, as I personally believe, that Muhammad and his followers were directed by the devil. Muhammad allegedly had an encounter in a cave with a horrible spirit being that terrified him. So, to my mind, what you've probably got there is that the scriptures of the Bible were plagiarized, borrowed, twisted, and corrupted by Muhammad and under the influence of Satan the devil, who's taken the truth about Antichrist, false prophet, and just simply reversed them. So I'm not surprised that the Muslims are looking for biblical characters and biblical prophecies, but they've got it twisted the wrong way around, right? They've been set up. They've been deceived by the devil, by their writings. They've been deceived so that they will welcome the Antichrist. They will welcome the false prophet. They'll support them, provide billions of dollars to help them, right? Because they believe these two individuals are their Mahdi and their Isa. You and I, hopefully, will be saying, oh, no, that's the Antichrist. That's a false prophet. You don't want to go where these guys are, right? Let's turn back to Revelation 13, carry on reading about what this false prophet will be doing. So I think verses 14 through 18. And he, the false prophet, deceives. Deception, you're just going to be monumental, especially if you think that 1.8 billion Muslims will accept these two evil people as servants of Allah to lead them to peace and prosperity. And you and I know that they're actually two of the most wicked people ever to walk this earth. That's major deception. And it wouldn't surprise me if some believers do leave their faith, because what this false prophet does be so outstanding, so incredible, they're going to, oh, perhaps that is. And of course, this Mahdi character, he's got the answers. He's showing us how to have peace. Oh, maybe, right? So hopefully none of us will be fooled by that. Verse 14, he deceives those who dwell on the earth by those signs which he was granted to do in the sight of the beast, telling those who dwell on the earth to make an image to the beast who was wounded by the sword and lived. An image being talked of here. Verse 15, he was granted power to give breath to the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak, really, and cause as many as would not worship the image of the beast to be killed. Ooh. So this image will speak and cause people to be killed. I wonder how many. How many will be martyred? Millions? Verse 16, he causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hand or on their foreheads, and that no one may buy or sell, except one who has the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Can't buy, can't sell, can't buy food, can't use transport, can't pay for tickets, can't buy gas or petrol, right? Can't heat your house, can't buy or sell, unless you have this mark, etc. Here is wisdom, verse 18. Let him who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man. His number is 666. Ooh, wonder what that could possibly mean, right? So you can see there a reference to martyrdom. People are going to be killed for not going along with the instructions of the false prophet, right? He sets up the mark of the beast. And if you don't take it, you're going to be in serious trouble. On the other hand, if you do take it, you're going to be in serious trouble. Now, I've heard a lot of people agonize over, well, is it possible I could take the mark of the beast inadvertently, just by accident? And people get some strange beliefs, of course. Maybe you've had them as well. People think, oh, I've got a credit card through the post and I looked at the account number, it's got a 666. Do you think have I got the mark of the beast now? Is that 666? You know, the identity of the beast. Some people, you know, they've got a phone number. We had a minister at church who was giving us out his phone number once in case we needed to contact him. He said, blah, 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 34, blah, 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 666. And he says, if you're a bit anxious over the 666, my telephone number says, that was a bit as well. Right? It could be your, car license plate, 666. Yeah, people get thought, oh, but what if I had no intention? What if it's just by accident, open an envelope, took out something and it's got 666 on it? Would God punish me for taking the mark of the beast inadvertently, by accident? To which the answer is no. Well, I'm pretty sure the answer is no, because I think you'll see as we look at a couple of scriptures that this is as a result of a choice. Nobody, I think, inadvertently takes the mark of the beast. It's a decision, a deliberate, knowing decision, which reflects your heart. You've got a choice in this world, in this end time. You can choose to be faithful to God, Jesus Christ, have your allegiance to Jesus Christ, or give your allegiance to the beast, the Antichrist, and the false prophet. Your choice, my choice. And it reveals our heart, right? So if you choose to take the mark of the beast and worship the image of the beast, well, that's your choice, but you've chosen to reject Jesus Christ and his sacrifice because you've chosen to give your allegiance, your heart, to the devil and to his end-time servants. It's a choice, right? And God's not going to be happy if you reject him and the Lord Jesus to give your heart, your allegiance to this evil individual. Right? Look at Revelation chapter 14. And because it's a question of your heart and your allegiance, you can see why God gets, he's not very happy if you make that wrong choice. Revelation 14, reading verses 9 through 11. Then a third angel followed them, angels 1 and 2 that would have been, saying with a loud voice, if anyone worships the beast and his image and receives his mark on his forehead or on his hand, he himself shall also drink of the wine of the wrath of God, which is poured out full strength into the cup of his indignation. He shall be tormented. You take the mark. You'll be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb. And the smoke of their torment ascends forever and ever. And they have no rest, day or night, who worship the beast and his image, or whoever require or receives the mark of his name. So that's somebody said that's the most condemnatory language in the entire Bible, and it belongs to those who take the mark. But if you look at the language, the mark doesn't stand on its own. It's those who worship the beast, give their heart, their allegiance to the beast or his image, or receive the mark. I think it goes together. It's not just that you get an envelope with a credit card with 666 on it. It's because you've chosen to worship the beast, to worship the image of the beast, to receive the mark of the beast, whatever that is, right? It's a choice, and it reflects your allegiance. And in this case here, you made the wrong choice. And it looks like, you don't want to be there, do you? To receive the indignation of God and the smoke of your torment going up forever and ever. But that doesn't happen accidentally. You've made a choice, right? Have a look at Revelation 16, verses 1 and 2. This is the six vials. Then I heard a loud voice from the temple saying to the seven angels, seven vials, go and pour out the bowls of the wrath of God on the earth. So the first went and poured out his bowl upon the earth, and a foul and loathsome sore came upon the men who had the mark of the beast and those who worshipped his image. Right? So again, grievous pain and punishment on those, but notice it's who had the mark and worshipped his image. So I don't think the mark stands in isolation anywhere. It's always in association with worship or allegiance or giving your faith towards the beast. Have a look at chapter 19. Verses 19 to 21. And I saw the beast, the kings of the earth, and their armies gathered together to make war against him who sat on the horse and against his army. Then the beast was captured, with him the false prophet, who worked signs in his presence, by which he, the false prophet, deceived those who received the mark of the beast and those who worshipped his image. Again, it's not just the mark. We have the worship, the allegiance. These two were cast alive into the lake of fire, burning with brimstone. Right? And then chapter 20, let's drop down to verse 4. So you've got the unholy trinity I mentioned earlier. You've got the beast, the false prophet, and the dragon, the devil. And it just tells us here in these last few verses we just read how the beast and the false prophet will be sort of captured and thrown into the lake of fire. Right? That leaves, of course, the dragon, the devil. And we're not going to read it, but the first few verses of chapter 20 show us the devil having his punishment, being locked away for 1,000 years. Right? So all three of them, the unholy trinity, are dealt with. The two human beings into the lake of fire, where they're going to be burned up, and the dragon going into the incarceration for 1,000 years for the millennium. But ignoring all that, just dropping down to verse 4 now, we're looking about the fact that when you come across the mark of the beast, it's always associated with worship of the beast and its image. Verse 4, and I saw thrones, and they sat on them, and judgment was committed to them. Then I saw the souls of those who had been beheaded for their witness to Jesus and for the word of God, who had not worshipped the beast or his image, and had not received his mark on their foreheads or on their hands. And they lived and reigned with Christ for 1,000 years, right? The first resurrection. But notice there, it's in the context, you had the mark of the beast, or those who had not worshipped the beast or his image and not received the mark. So, like I say, there's no way, in my thinking at least, that you could take the mark of the beast in any accidental way. It's always associated with a certain amount of worship or allegiance, right, or putting trust in the beast, the Antichrist, and his empire. Once we're here, though, in verse 4, notice, then I saw the souls of those who had been beheaded for their witness to Jesus and for the word of God. It so happens to be the case that the one people on the earth who do a lot of beheading and have done huge amounts of beheading over the centuries are the Muslims, right? Muhammad set the scene in his day. So if you don't take an Islamic mark, you don't worship an Islamic Antichrist, then, and you refuse to convert to Islam, which by the looks of it, a number are given that choice and decide to stay with Jesus and his testimony, they get beheaded. Well, it's not proof positive, but it's contextual. That's what you'd expect. And I think Saudi Arabia is one of the biggest beheaders of people on the earth today. That's their preferred way of disposing with people who are a problem, right? But whilst we're in, Revelation 13, I better go back there actually. We can just have a quick discussion about this image.
I reckon Mark, leaving it till next week.
Yeah, we're not going to look at the mark today because what the mark, well, you won't take the mark accidentally. That's the point I wanted to make. The mark will always be associated with a certain amount of worship and allegiance towards the Islamic realm, the Islamic theology, right? But what the mark actually is still speculative, but we'll cover that next week, I think. But for now, I just want to look at the image that's mentioned here So verse 15 of Revelation 13, he was granted power, the false prophet was, to give breath to the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause as many as would not worship the image of the beast to be killed. So the image seems to play quite an important role here. If you don't worship the image, right, the image will speak, it says there, and will cause you to be put to death, martyred, wild guess, beheaded, right? Now the word image there is from the Greek word icon, E-I-K-O-N. We have a similar word in English, I-C-O-N, icon. It just means an object. And speculation, my rubber chicken, Nebuchadnezzar, which means I'm speculating, because there's several possibilities of what the image of the beast might be, right? And obviously, if we wait long enough and arrive in the end times, if you and I are still alive at this point, when we get there, and there's the Antichrist, and here's the false prophet, right? Then it will be pretty clear at that stage exactly, without doubt, what the image is, because we'll be able to see and detect what is there. What we can tell is it's something that can be worshipped, and apparently it can speak, right? So there's probably several possibilities there. I'm going to cover today just one of them, and maybe next week we'll look at another possible candidate. So plausible candidates. So I'm not hopefully going completely wild. This is plausible, right? It's a candidate for the image. It's a possible fit, right? Which is the Kaaba in Mecca, in Saudi Arabia. The Kaaba is the central point of worship in the Islamic world. I think we have a couple of slides there, that one there. The Kaaba is that big black cubit. It is quite big, and of course all Muslims, if they're healthy enough, are required at least once in their life to go to Mecca and to make pilgrimage to the Kaaba. In the Kaaba, which is the holiest icon, image, you have the black stone, right? It's black. It actually looks sort of reddish to me, the one in the middle, but some light, you can see it, I think, in the top right. You've got like a sort of silver type metal around it, and then the black stone in the middle. The black stone allegedly was given by the angel Gabriel to Abraham. I don't believe any of that, but the Kaaba in Mecca is all Muslims worship towards it, right? I don't think they would actually worship it, but I don't know for sure. They certainly worship towards it 5 times a day. It's one of the 5 pillars, I think, of being a Muslim, is you get your little mat out, you find out where Mecca is. If you go into a mosque, there's usually a thing in the wall that points towards Mecca, and you kneel down and you prostrate yourself and you worship towards Mecca 5 times a day. If you go to Mecca on this pilgrimage, if you can make it, when you get to the Kaaba, you go around it, and you try to touch the black stone. Some endeavour to kiss the black stone, right? Because it's very important. It's the holiest relic in the entirety of the Islam world, right? I think we get one more. The black stone, right, that's it there in the middle, and that's at the edge of the Kaaba, which 1.8 billion Muslims, more or less, pray towards it, typically 5 times a day if they're really, devout. The black stone, this is what the Muslims say. The black stone will come forth on the day of resurrection and will testify in favor of those who touched it in truth. So if you go there as a Muslim, you can reach out and touch that black stone,
But I can't go, 'cause I'm
right?
female.
Then you're good to go. Paradise, here I come. Carrying on with the next longer bit there. It was narrated that Ibn Abbas said, the messenger of Allah, peace and blessings be upon him, said concerning the stone, that's just the introduction, by Allah, Allah will bring it forth on the day of resurrection, and it will have 2 eyes with which it will see, and a tongue with which it will speak. And it will testify in favor of those who touch it in sincerity. So according to Islam's own prophecies, the black stone, right? Which the angel Gabriel gave to Abraham. I don't believe that. Will have eyes and will speak, right? So even today, you worship billions, not millions, billions of Muslims worship the black stone at the Kaaba. At the end time, it will speak and testify, bear witness to those who touched it in truth. According to Scripture, it looks like it might also testify to those who didn't and shop you, right? And no doubt in the end times, people are converting in large numbers by the millions and millions and millions to Islam because they can see this great, powerful, peaceful leader, the Mahdi, this fantastic Jesus who's returned now and brought the truth to us. We're no longer deceived thinking he was the Son of God who died and shed his blood. We now know that that never happened. So you're going to get, one imagines, potentially millions converting to Islam, right? Possibly to avoid the sword, taking the head off, of course, right? And they're going to be encouraged, or it's going to be mandated, you better worship towards the Kaaba, right? Because you need to worship that image in Mecca, because we all do. And one day that image will speak, and if you're not honest and true, it will shop you, and so on, right? So that's just one possibility. I think it's a reasonable possibility. It's plausible, right? Because it is an image. It is worshipped by already a quarter of the earth. It's not hard to see how that could be mandated for others who come into Islam in the latter days. So I think conclusion is that you and I are looking for two individuals, not just the Antichrist. He's one for sure. We're also looking for a deceitful religious leader, right, who's also quite murderous and sets up a system of martyrdom. And strangely enough, we have two such individuals in the Muslim religion, right? Islam and its adherents are looking for their Mahdi, their civil military leader. They're looking for Isa al-Masih, their Jesus, the great prophet Messiah, to come and support their Mahdi in wiping out Christianity, wiping out Judaism, and ensuring worldwide Sharia law and Islam worldwide. So you and I are looking for two. The Muslims are looking for two, right? They think it's two great saviors. We think it's two evil individuals, Antichrist and his buddy, his enforcer. So it's curious in a sense, isn't it? We're all looking, but with cross purposes. The Islamic world has inverted the truth of these final two. Anyway, I think the final conclusion is my advice would be to watch the Middle East and watch Islam. Because somewhere along the line, these two will appear. Okay, with that we'll conclude today's Bible study.